How are the babies going in the nest? Eh? Are you a good girl? I've got to go over there and do some work. Reasonable bonsai collection, and I was just thinking how long I've been growing bonsais, and it's since the 80s, mid to late 80s, that I've been growing bonsai. And this particular one is a jasmine, and she would have to be 14 or 15 years old. And I've tried to give it the windswept look. Or north of Perth, there's a place called Greenock, where the trees basically are windswept and bend over, and that was the effect that I've tried with this bonsai. And unfortunately, on this particular plant, I've neglected it a little. And neglect is one of those terrible things that we often do to others. And when you think about our relationships with people, and especially those people that we love, we often fail through neglect and concern. And this poor tree has been neglected. What I had tried to do was to grow a native grass base, and this can be quite aggressive once it starts to grow. But of course, with the grasses comes other grasses which I don't want. So gardening is all about persistence and trial and error, and sometimes in gardening you just want to pull a hair out when things don't go correctly right. So, as I said before, this jasmine is a teenager, 14 or 15 years old. Often I repot about every 2 years, and we can see there's a bit of yellowing, but it's trying to flower, and it's been a really good specimen. I've got the distance across the pot that I want. It's just a matter of maintaining the shape. But the real problem is not the bonsai. The real problem is that we had bought, I think perhaps 3 years ago, we'd bought a plant and we were hoping for it to fruit. And the fruit keeps falling off, and it's a mulberry tree. Mulberry trees are very important, especially in the aquarium trade. Each leaf in Perth sells for 50 cents per leaf. It's ridiculous, but that's just the way things are. So we'll stop with this bonsai, and I'll just get redressed, and we will head over to the mulberry tree, and I need to do a transplant. So the problem with this mulberry is that each year it drops the berries while they're generally immature, and over 3 years we've probably only ended up with 10 berries. It's supposed to be a dwarf mulberry, but what we're going to do is we're going to cut it back down to a reasonable size, and then we're going to repot it and put it into isolation over the next 12 months to see if we can sort out the problem. The problem is, of course, we're living in a forest, and the ingress of tree roots, I think, are playing in competition with the mulberry. So as a result of that, we'll cut it down, repot it, and feed it carefully, water it carefully, and see what sort of result we get for next year.
sure if you can see it, but up there, top of the mobile phone tower, are ospreys. They made a nest within months of the tower being built, and we've seen several babies being born up there. They're either fixing up the nest at the moment or feeding babies.
So after about 20 minutes of tug of war, it was a dwarf mulberry. I've cut off all the bad cuts that I made, just about. So I was going to put it in one larger pot, but for the moment, until they recover, I'm going to keep them in a small pot, and then I will transfer them. And I'm only using a very cheap type of potting mix. We do have our own, but it's a little bit dry at the moment, our own potting mix. So this will do, and when I water it, I'll use a little bit of seaweed solution. At the moment, the plants are in shock, and that will cause a few issues for a few weeks. And this is the other one. So if you have a look, you can see the roots here. They're very strong roots, and they probably went in the ground 3 or 4 metres, but they just don't hold their fruit. So I'm just trying an experiment. We've got nothing to lose because we haven't been really getting anything out of the mulberries at all. So we tried fertilising, mulching, watering excessively, and where I've dug it out, it's nice and damp. So it could just be the variety of mulberry that we've got, or perhaps it's not old enough. But anyway, we'll give it a second go, and instead of one mulberry, we've now got 2. Happy gardening.